What happens when dreams don't come true? Monsters University isn't your typical underdog story. It's about an underdog who tries his best to succeed, but still fails. MU shows us how we can deal with failure, and teaches us where a person's, or monster's, value comes from. I'm Jake, and this is the moral of the story. Have you ever had a singular goal? Something that you would give anything to have? A dream? Mike Wazowski does. He wants to be a scarer.
How do I become a scarer?
In the monster world, scarers are like famous athletes, complete with their own trading cards. And everyone wants to be one. The only problem? No one thinks that Mike has what it takes to be a scarer. They think he just isn't scary.
Come on, guys, I want to see.
Out of the way, Wazowski. You don't belong on a scare floor.
But Mike doesn't let that stop him, and sets out to prove everyone wrong. In typical underdog fashion, an incident gets Mike and Sully kicked out of the scaring program. Mike finds out that his only chance to get back in is to take a ragtag group of misfits and lead them to victory in a scaring competition. All the while hearing everyone tell him that he just doesn't belong.
Sorry, Squirt. Some monsters just aren't cut out for the big league.
That's because you don't belong here.
Don't take the loss too hard. You never belonged here anyway.
There are many different types of values and goals that a person can pursue. Some of them are good for you, and some of them are bad. Let's take a look at the bad values for a second, and the goals that are born out of them. In his book, The Subtle Art, Mark Manson calls out pleasure, material success, always being right, and staying positive as some of the most common poor values that give people associated poor problems. I would add that one of the worst poor values not included in Manson's list is living up to expectations, specifically society's expectation of greatness. And this is because of how we often define greatness. This is how most people define greatness. The primary quality of greatness being the fact that it is out of the norm. Mike completely subscribes to this expectation of being exceptional. Today, more than ever, we are inundated by exceptional content. The algorithms behind social media do such a good job of curating and serving us exceptional content that we rarely see any of the ordinary, mundane, or average aspects of life. Our lives today are filled with information from the extremes of the bell curve of human experience, because in the media business, that's what gets eyeballs, and eyeballs bring dollars. What makes matters worse for Mike is that in monster society, only certain qualities are important. This is actually the same in human society. Art, for example, is truly exceptional, but not in the way that his fellow monsters think is important. Mike's dream to be a scarer isn't itself a poor goal. The problem is that it's tied up in an unhealthy identity issue. That everyone around Mike believes a monster who isn't scary is no monster at all.
Scariness is the true measure of a monster. If you're not scary, what kind of a monster are you?
It's understandable that in a world like this, one might start to put unrealistic expectations on oneself. We get used to seeing a highlight reel, often literally, and start to subconsciously think that for some, that's all there is. From there, it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we must be exceptional, especially at certain things, simply to matter. Since Frank McKay gave young Mike his hat, Mike has held on to the idea that the solution to all his problems would be becoming a scarer. But what Mike, and most of us struggle to understand, is that by this equation, most, by definition, are not valuable. Even if we get to be the exceptional ones and are happy as a result, does it really make sense that only a select few can be happy? It shouldn't have to be this way. Furthermore, it's Sully's character arc that shows us that being exceptional can be its own curse.
Yeah, I'm a Sullivan. I'm the Sullivan who flunked every test. The one who got kicked out of the program. The one who was so afraid to let everyone down that I cheated. And I lied. Mike, I'll never know how you feel. But you're not the only failure here.
And it is ultimately this realization that bring Mike and Sully to a point where they can understand each other and become friends.
How come you never told me that before?
Because we weren't friends before.
After the final Scare Games competition, Mike, thinking that he finally proved himself, finds out that Sully rigged the simulator so that he couldn't fail.
Yes, I did.
Understandably upset, Mike breaks into the door lab and decides to put himself to the test, once and for all, in the human world. Once there, Mike attempts to scare a real kid, and heartbreakingly, finds out that the others were right. He just isn't scary.
You were right. They weren't scared of me. I did everything right. I wanted it more than anyone. And I thought if I wanted it enough, I could show everybody that Mike Wazowski is something special. And I'm just not.
But it's this event that finally lets Mike learn what the film's director, Dan Scanlon, said about the theme of the movie.
Like Mike, a lot of times you have to look past who you thought you were going to be in order to discover who you can be.
Because Mike starts to move past his original impression of himself and what he should be, he's able to figure out a way for Sully and himself to escape to the human world. This is symbolized in the image of Mike seeing his hat burning after the escape back to the monster world, and realizing that maybe it's not his ability to scare that gives him value.
How did you do this?
Don't ask me.
On top of reformatting his idea of himself, Mike also establishes better values and goals to pursue.
They're always hiring in the mailroom.
I think this is well described by one of my favorite ideas in Stoicism. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Or put differently, the things that stand in our way may actually be what equips us to move forward. Like resistance in the gym, if you engage with it, you get stronger. This is why we should not set our sights on reaching a summit, like winning a gold medal, playing a stadium show, or becoming a scarer. We should instead find a mountain we enjoy climbing, and just work to improve our climb with every step. Infinite-minded leaders understand that best is not a permanent state. Instead, they strive to be better. Better suggests a journey of constant improvement and makes us feel like we are invited to contribute our talents and energies to make progress in that journey. Mike's story shows us that just because people might not see our value, that doesn't mean we don't have it.
Mike, you're not scary. Not even a little. But you are fearless.
Monsters U teaches that we have inherent value.
You're the scariest bunch of monsters I have ever met. Don't let anyone tell you different.
And if you've seen Monsters Incorporated, you know that it's another one of Mike's undervalued qualities that is a game changer in that movie, his ability to make kids laugh. But this time around, Mike knows his value, and he and Sully are able to change what Monster Society values as a result. So what's the moral of the story? Value doesn't come from an achievement, and value doesn't come from others' opinion of you. Value is in you by default, and it's what you decide to do with the hand that you're dealt that defines who you are. All you have to do is keep improving and keep moving forward.
You coming, Coach?
You better believe it.